Okay, everyone, welcome. All of you come to C&C Education Foundation and the C&C Talks tonight. And my name is Lucia Liu. I'm the founder and the principal of C&C Edu Center. And it's very, very exciting that the C&C Education Foundation, that is a nonprofit organization that we built up just for our students, parents, and educators who have passion, who like to share your talent, your skills, your knowledge, and who like to provide mentorship to the younger learners. And that would be amazing. We need more and more people who come up to share and to make this program running and to do more contribution to our community. And for C&C Education, can host mute everyone, please? Can host mute everyone, please? Can you mute yourself? Thank you. So C&C Education Foundation, we have two channels right now. One is C&C Literacy Club. One is C&C Talks. So what does C&C Literacy Club for? It is really for anything about literacy. Okay, the books you love to share, and the movie you watch you like to share, and the short stories, the poetry, you know, the tons knowledge resources for literacy. You know, if you're high school and the Shakespeare's work, someone like to share, that's great as well, because it's challenging for high school students, and it's a must for you to write grade 12 yearly 30 diploma exam. It's not just ready for exam, but it's something if you have passion to share. That's just giving an example. Okay, movies and poetry, writing and reading readings. And C&C Talks mainly for just like tonight. Okay, you know, Eric is the main panelist, and Shawn and Vicky are going to interview. And also for people who has strong public speaking skills, you can feel free to make a speech here, and we can also have debating as well coming here, and particularly for mentorship. Okay, in Chinese we say 大手牵小手. Okay, the big brother, big sisters, you know, kind of provide buddy support to the younger learners and share your experience. This is the amazing support and the program, because kids learn better. Through my past 30 years teaching experience, I see this is very effective learning strategy, and kids are very engaged. They don't have, you know, fear to listen to their the buddies, but they do feel, you know, kind of nervous and pressure when a teacher who has lots of authority and lots of knowledge, you know, sometimes they can be distracted. And so mentorship program is much greatly appreciated in educational field. So we were going to use this. And this is pretty much everything that I like to say. And at the same time, and I just wanted to congrats to Eric again. And it's very, very exciting. And for, you know, to hear the news that you are enrolled into Harvard University. And also it's very, for me, it's very touching that I've been seeing you since you were elementary child, you know, lovely young boy, and then now you're a, you know, handsome young man and very confident. You know, you must have lots of experience to share about the journey of, you know, to Harvard University. And here we go. The stage is yours, Shawn, Vicky, and Eric. Thank you so much for leading this show. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Liu. All right, so I'm just going to reiterate on a couple words that Ms. Liu said, through a slideshow presentation, basically detailing just what C&C Talks is and how it's benefiting students. So I will just share my screen right now to give you guys all a look at the presentation. All right, so C&C Talks is a branch of C&C Education Foundation, which, as Ms. Liu already said before, is a nonprofit organization, which is built for passionate students, parents, and educators who want to share their skills, knowledge, and experiences, and overall, to be able to mentor younger students and contribute to a learning community through this platform. And so if you guys are interested in participating or sharing, you can feel free to contact us through Education Foundation, the C&C Education Foundation, and through this website at www.cnceducenter.ca or at the provided phone number. All right, and so today we will be interviewing Eric, who, as Ms. Liu said before, has just recently been accepted into Harvard. And so today he's going to be sharing some of his experiences through high school and just teaching us about what he's learned in these past couple years. And all right, and so let me just give a brief introduction on Eric. So Eric currently attends Rundle College and at the moment is head prefect at the school government. And so he does a lot of school events, right? Not only that, but he's also started his own student-run nonprofit organization called System STEM, which is dedicated to help youth learn more about tech and learn more about the STEM field and provide them with these opportunities through funding, which they may not be able to have. And so, yeah, why don't you say hi, Eric?
Hi, everyone, and thank you for that introduction, Shawn.
Yeah, no problem. And so we'll get straight to the questions right now.
Right. Yes. So I think a good question to start off first is to get to know a little bit more about you before university. So my first question is, when did you realize that you wanted to start aiming for Ivy League schools, and how did you prepare to do so?
Yeah, totally. So I think the Ivy League is definitely just something, that is talked about even when you're just like a young little kid, right? So it's a seed that's been implanted into our heads like from a very young age. But to be honest, for me, it wasn't really a thought until very much later on in my life. So probably beginning of high school, grade 11, I would say, when you're actually applying to universities. That's when I really started thinking about the Ivy Leagues, just because of, the prestigious name that comes attached to them, as well as, the rankings that definitely don't lie, right? And they have some very great, outstanding programs as well as opportunities. So I think starting then is when I really started thinking about, pursuing my post-secondary education at an Ivy League.
Right, so kind of to elaborate on that, you said that it wasn't really until like 11th grade when you put proper thought and planning into it, right? But like beforehand, with all of us, it's been drilled into our minds that these are like the top schools in the world. So like, did you kind of have a plan that you set for yourself? Like, did you only set this plan in 11th grade, or like, were you actively like preparing yourself to get into a prestigious school even before that?
I think it's definitely like I always had that long-term plan, right? Of getting the best marks I can, working hard, and having that thought process of possibly enrolling in one of these high-end schools, right? But I think it wasn't until high school that it really started to matter, because when I was in junior high, it seemed like university was so far away, right? But I would say I definitely started working harder during junior high and really focused on my grades starting then. Yeah.
So like, when you realized that it was your dream, or like it was your plan to get into this school, was there like any sort of long-term or short-term goals that you set for yourself to ensure your success, or to like, yeah?
Absolutely, right. I think a long-term goal that everybody should have if they're, planning on pursuing and applying to some of the Ivy Leagues is definitely getting your grades, as high as you can get them and working hard, right, to maintain some high grades. Because the truth is, if your grades aren't, high enough, they might not even look at your application because they have so many. So I think that's, the truth of the situation, and definitely need to have that as a long-term goal. And for other short-term goals, right, it's just getting as involved as I can within my community. At my school, I tried to get involved in as many extracurriculars as I could, but real truth is it ends after grade 12, right, with that school. So I would consider that a short-term goal, just because of, the length of it, and the, inevitable end to it. But yeah, definitely pursue your passions in school. And then I think a long-term goal everybody needs to have is just work hard academically.
So obviously, Ivy League schools and other prestigious schools like Harvard get tons of applicants every year. Some of them also have good grades, and obviously not everyone who applies gets in, right? So
Mhm.
what qualities do you think differentiated you from other applicants?
Right. I would say that one quality is definitely the passion that I have for everything that I do. If I'm enrolled in like a program or an extracurricular activity, I do it because I find, enjoyment out of it instead of just doing it for the name. Like for example, when I'm doing robotics, it's not just because I want to go into engineering or computer science that I'm doing it, but I actually find enjoyment, and it doesn't actually feel like I'm working or anything. It's more so me exploring and kind of playing in that, club. And so I think when you're writing about these programs, and when you're working on your Common App application, it's definitely comes a lot easier if you're actually finding enjoyment and passion out of these extracurricular activities that you do. So I think that might have been definitely one thing that stood out. And then other things might just be my involvement within my community. I've done tons of volunteering hours. I've created my own nonprofit that gives back to the community. So I think they are really looking for students who are open-minded and willing to give back to their community as well.
Right. Yeah, that sounds really great. Obviously, you can't really force something or do something for the sake of it, right? Like in the long run, I feel like these colleges can obviously see that, and many applicants, like they just do something for the sake of it, just to make themselves look better, or just make them look like they're doing something right, when in reality, the activity means nothing to them. So I really commend your just overall passion for like the activities you do. For instance, you said robotics and your nonprofit organization. So could you like just go a bit more in depth about your organization and what it does?
Yeah, absolutely. And before that, I'm just gonna add on to what you just said, Shawn. These college admissions officers aren't stupid, right? They've done this for tons, like 10, 20 years, right? They can tell right off the bat if your essay is genuine or not. So that aspect really comes in handy if you're writing about something you're passionate about, right? So I just wanted to add on to that. But yeah, talking about my nonprofit organization, it's System STEM. It's called, and it's a website-based nonprofit that's aimed to provide easy to access resources for students, parents, and educators all around, potentially the world. But as of right now, we're aimed towards Calgary. It has lots of websites, resources, and basically like robotics, chemistry kits that you can purchase online. And it has the stories of the founders, as well as kind of reasons why to get involved within STEM. It has been, brutally misrepresented, within the past couple of years, and it's growing exponentially. We also have a section specifically for female involvement in STEM communities, just because women in STEM are misrepresented, in our opinion, and I'm sure it comes off on that on paper as well. So we actually do have a link, and it's called the STEMinist, which encourages female involvement in STEM. But more importantly, we raise money to donate STEM kits. So whether it be chemistry kits, robotics kits, or just books and magnifying glasses, we raise money to donate bulks of those to underfunded schools within Calgary. And so far, we've raised just over $3,000, and we've donated probably 150 kits to underfunded school in Calgary called Banting and Best. And we've made probably, I would say, 100 grade 3 to 5 kids very happy within this past year.
Right. So like, obviously, starting your own nonprofit organization is just one of the many ways where you can just go back and give back to the community and just be more intertwined with the people in it, right? But like for some people, like that's a pretty big deal, right? That's a pretty big endeavor. And so how would you recommend like students who want to give back to the community, but like don't necessarily have like the, the ability to take on such a big undertaking as you did? How would you like recommend that they try to get back to the community or like gain more leadership opportunities within the community?
Right, absolutely. So you're totally right. Starting your own nonprofit is a big deal. It's time consuming, it's a lot of work, and it definitely can be very tedious. So if that's not your thing, like that's totally fine, right? There's tons of other opportunities that you can give back. So for me, I also took part in annual volunteering activities. So it's not a lot, but at least you're giving back once a year in a big way, right? So I think through my school, I was able to do something called Feed the Hungry, and that happens around Christmas time every year. And it's basically, it's with the organization called Feed the Hungry, and you serve warm meals to homeless people during around Christmas time. And I think, it's a very easy thing for us to do. And then I think it's a huge impact, and I think it's a great way to give back. But if you want, to give back to the community, definitely some local volunteering opportunities. They're easy to come by, and you're making a huge impact, especially if you're passionate in giving back, right?
So with starting your own nonprofit and stuff, obviously that takes a ton of skill and such. And most people aren't just like born with such skill immediately, right? So how do you think you started building up all that skills to the point where you could start your own nonprofit and run it the way you do?
Totally. And I would agree, as a child, I was extremely shy. I hated all confrontation. I hated, talking to people. It was just how I was, right? But I think to develop that leadership quality, you need to get involved with leadership activities as soon as possible. And so for me, that kind of looked like running for our class mayor in grade 6, even though it was a very small thing, and it's in the long run, it's not a big deal, right? It's a building block. And I think you just need to get involved with local opportunities as soon as possible. For example, in grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, I was a part of the Leaders Council. And then I was also, a prefect in grade 10 all the way up to grade 12, where I'm a head prefect now, right? So I just started small, definitely started small, and then started building up on that slowly and slowly. And then I think the key to developing these qualities is definitely experience.
Right. Yeah. So just starting out slow, right? Getting those initial opportunities and building upon them to a point where you have enough experience where you can actually use it to do something. And as you did, you used it to give back to the community and do such wonderful things, right? And I don't remember if I briefly mentioned this before, but you also are involved in other extracurriculars too. For instance, robotics we talked about before we actually started the formal interview, right? So I wanted to ask you if the process was also similar, right? How did you also build up your skills, or like how did you get into STEM, and how did you like do so? How were you able to get so far in robotics in high school?
Yeah, absolutely. So personally for me, I didn't even know I wanted to go into technology until joining robotics. And, in junior high, I was thinking about law and medicine and, bio and things like that, right? But for me, like going into grade 10, I saw my school had a robotics club, and I was open-minded. I wanted to try a little bit of everything, just to test the waters. And I think, going to that first session, it really was just, it captivated me right away. The chaos of it, the metalworking, the wiring, the coding, it really captivated my inquisitive nature. And so through that, slowly, you just put in hours. I knew nothing about robotics and, the tech sector going into that. So I just started putting in hours slowly and slowly. And I think the key to it is definitely just, putting in effort and working for it. And as long as you're passionate about what you're doing, and as long as you enjoy it, you'll put in hours naturally. And through that, you'll naturally grow in, technical skill, and then, just basic knowledge that you require to go further in.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
So obviously you're like the things you excelled in, you were really passionate in, right? For instance, robotics, giving back to the community. But were there times in high school where you like struggled in subjects or at times struggled in extracurriculars? And if you did struggle in those times, could you like give us some advice on how you overcame that struggle?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's human nature to struggle. If anyone told me that they never struggled in anything before, I just simply would not believe them, right? Sorry, excuse me. But so I think a very, very good example would be my course of Physics 20 honors that I took in my school. It was notoriously difficult, and with that, I was taking a full honors course load at my school. And so with that, I was also involved with robotics, which is 3 hours a day for 3 to 4 days a week. I was doing volleyball, which is 2 days and 2 hours every day after school. And with that, I was working on my studying, prepping for university admissions, other things that go on in my life, and running errands and things like that, right? And so it's definitely time consuming, and that was a struggle because I was struggling mentally, I was struggling with my academics, and then I was struggling with time management. But with that, I think you definitely need to just start taking a little bit of time for yourself, just to, get everything in order, plan out your next couple of days, make sure that you're very, very organized about how you go about things. And when you need to work, you really need to buckle down and get your work done. No slacking around. You got to be, 100% when you're working. So that way you have time for yourself to do things you like. For example, I like to play basketball in my free time, but I found it very difficult with school and my extracurriculars, right? So as long I feel like you just need to put everything you got into your academics for a set time period. And then everything else, you just got to plan out and then make sure that you have time for yourself to kind of just make sure you have your mental in check and then you have the motivation to keep working.
It's like keeping yourself accountable and rigorous self-discipline to sum it
Mhm.
up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta be very hard on yourself when you're, working, but you also have to let yourself just relax and recharge before you go on to the next day, right?
Yeah, that's
hmm
definitely important.
hmm
So, so you seem like you have like a ton of knowledge about applying to universities and like things in general with or organizing your schedule and such. So one of the questions I have would be for to people who are applying to university now or soon, what advice would you give to them for the application process and things leading up to it?
Right. Okay. So for me, I hired a university advisor to help me out. So this is somebody who's done it for years before. She knew the, U.S. university system inside and out. She knew how the ACT works. She knew how the application worked, right? Because we're Canadians. Our school doesn't really care about the U.S. application system, and
Mm.
so I think from that, I think it's very good to have a professional help you out, just so you're on track and you kind of know the shortcuts here and there. But other than that, I think you need to have a really clear mindset on, which schools that you want and which schools that are, kind of lower on the list. And you need to prioritize that because every application, every school, you'll probably have to write 3 or 4 essays, right? And so
Mm.
as you can see, with if you're applying to 5, 6, 7 schools like I did, that's a lot of writing. And for example, like I had some schools that I did want to go to potentially, but in the end, I never applied just because I couldn't put in the time and effort to apply and write those essays. So I think once again, you really need to, be very clear with yourself of which universities you are for sure wanting to go if you get accepted, and which universities you're like, oh, they're a little bit lower on the list, and maybe you can just totally turf them and forget about them. hmm
Okay, so like really just setting out a set number of schools, right? For you it was five, six or seven, was
It,
it?
it was seven schools, yeah.
Oh yeah, seven schools that you ultimately were on your list, right? And so already that's a lot, right? So essentially what I'm getting at is that you need to really prioritize what you said before, prioritize your schools, and then because you don't want to be overloaded with all that writing for essays,
hmm
right? Oh, okay, yeah, that definitely makes sense because yeah, that makes sense. It's sort of ties back to that balance then you were talking about in your personal life that you did, right?
Totally.
Do you think there were some other contributing factors to you being selected other than your grades and your extracurriculars? Like I didn't talk about this before in your introduction, but you've had 2 internships so far. So maybe you could go more in depth into those right now for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like Shawn said, I had 2 internship opportunities, and I'm actually a part of one right now. And so my first internship program was with a local Calgarian company called Robotics, and they're very focused in 3D manufacturing and with robotic 3D yeah, sorry, like the 3D printing and things like that. And my specific sector was working with the future of warehousing, believe it or not. So what that entailed was it was a very self-led internship. I was paired with a mentor, and he was the R&D director of research and development at the company. And so he was a very busy guy. He met with me maybe once or twice a week, maybe even once a month if he was super busy. And it was very self-led. And what I did was basically look into what the past manufacturing systems were and what technologies were implemented there and what they are now, and then what they could be in the future to, get your packages from Amazon warehousing to your house faster, sooner, more efficient. And so that was what I was focused on. And with that, I created, I planned on writing a paper and I was hoping to get it published, but that actually never happened. And yeah, with that, it ended quite abruptly just because of how busy we both were. But, I gained a lot of valuable knowledge and experience from that. And with my second internship, it's with Triton Electrical here in Calgary. And with that, I'm looking at real life applications of electrical systems, blueprints, how to plan and create, these plans. And it's very new, very recent. So I'm just getting started, but, I'm already talking with my mentor, and we're just kind of seeing what I can do, what he can get me involved with.
Wow, that's really, really, really impressive. And so obviously your first internship, it doesn't always go the way you wanted to, right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of, because with that's basically the case with any mentorship, really. There's a lot of hills you have to cross over and it doesn't always go the way you want it to, right? So yeah, that's great and all, but like, how do you get that first internship, right? Because first you have to really put yourself out there in order to get the opportunity to showcase your skills, right? And so I want to know how you were able to do that.
Yeah, for me, I would actually consider myself a little bit luckier on that end. But I think regardless of being lucky or not, you got to put yourself out there and tell people what you want. And so for my first internship, my friend's mom, I was actually working at the company that I was interested in. And so with her, I communicated. I told her, I'm wanting to go to, a very prestigious school that requires a lot of, experience on my resume. And I want to go into computer science or engineering. And I think this opportunity, if you give it to me, would be perfect. And luckily, she connected me with Shawn is his name as well.
Oh,
And
Shawn.
he's the director. Yeah, he's a great guy. And then he said, yeah, I'd be happy to take you on. Here's what you can do for me and let me know what I can do for you. Right. So it came very easily for me, and I got lucky in that sense. But without, putting myself out there, without asking and telling Jen, who is the lady who connected me with my internship, without telling her what I wanted, I would have never gotten this opportunity. So I think you do need to, put yourself out there for sure.
Yeah, like just connect with more people inside that sphere you want to be in. For instance, all right, if you were never like interested in robotics, or you would never have the opportunity to do this or the opportunity to reach out to these people who would give you these opportunities. And this is also just from my own experience, but I've also found that like when you're looking for internships and stuff, it's a lot like kind of like, I don't know for you, but like it's kind of like the college admissions process, in that they really look, it's kind of like a mini application, right? Where they look at your extracurriculars and they look at your grades and stuff. But I found that one of the also more important parts is, especially if you're going into a STEM internship, they really value your personal projects that you do in your own free time, which would kind of like tie back to like your personal projects that you did with your robotics club. And also like a really good internship for high school students, if you're interested, is actually the Verna Ross and Tate High School Internship, which is located in Edmonton. I found out about it recently this year, and it's a really good opportunity for anyone interested. This year specifically because it's online, meaning you can do it virtually anywhere, right? And you're able to connect with these professors and work on these projects. So if you guys are interested in that, I would highly recommend you do that. But yeah, that's a bit off topic, but do you want to talk about
and
your...
No, I think that's great information, right? Because everyone's going to have a different path. Not everyone's going to have people that they know that can connect with things, right? So, these organizations, like you just said, provide great opportunities for those people who might not be able to get the opportunities like I did.
I applied this year. I really hope I get it.
To build on like the questions about internships, what sorts of things do you think that you learned from your 2 internships?
Okay. From my first one, I think a big lesson was things don't always play out the way you imagine them, right? When people think about it, like they might think that my process from, a high school student to Harvard was very easy breezy, hard work, determination gets you there, and it was just like a straight path, right? But no, definitely not. There's roadblocks here and there and everything, right? So for me, I think I learned just definitely don't have high expectations for anything. Things might turn south right away. Because for me, going into this internship, I thought I was going to be working like 3-4 hours a day, like, because I was so riled up. I was super passionate about it, right? And I was going to publish this paper, and I was going to do this project and go to the factory and work with him, right? But and then right away, COVID hit. I wasn't allowed to even go on site. And then I was dealing with my schoolwork, my, extracurriculars, and then I found pretty much no time to work on that. But in the end, I didn't even publish a paper. But still, with that, I think, I learned how to, be accountable to myself. I learned that you need to really keep yourself in check, because if it's not your family or your teachers, no one really, if it doesn't benefit them, no one's going to tell you to push on and like keep on top of your work, right? So you need to be accountable for yourself. But other than that, it still gave me a lot of knowledge on, systems and things that might help me in the future. I learned a lot about software and hardware and how those two work together. And so I think with that, just there's definitely technical knowledge that comes in here, but it's mostly your soft skills. And, that really gets developed with these internships.
Like your people skills, how you navigate a workplace, and like very much your charisma and your ability to like kind of lead a project so that you're capable or like willing to learn, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so we actually had a question in the chat a little while ago. And so that question was, how did you get the confidence to start talking to people, especially, in comparison to when you were little? You said you were like kind of timid, right? Didn't like confrontation. So how did you change that?
Yeah, with that, I think it's just definitely involvement with activities. So I actually started playing hockey when I was very, very young. Before, like when I barely knew how to walk, I was already on skates and on the ice. And so with that, I think you get your teammates, right? And then I think sports definitely really helps with that, confidence aspect, because you're on this team with 14 to 20 other people that really care about you, and you guys, there's that team building, right? So I think with that, slowly, I played 8 years of hockey, and I think that slowly developed my confidence, because I was interacting with people on a daily basis. I was making new friends, and I was enjoying the activities I was doing with these people. And then leading on into junior high, I got involved with volleyball, which I would have played for my 6th year this year if it were to have continued. And with that, right, it's the same aspect. You're talking with people, you're making new friends, you're getting outside of your comfort zone, and you're going through a lot of things with these people, right? So I think definitely just get involved in as many things as you can, find out what you like, and along the way, you'll meet people and you'll develop that confidence and that, that likelihood to start putting yourself out there.
Yeah, it's very much like you kind of break out of your shell by becoming more confident just because like the people around you are confident. At least that's the way that's what happened to me, right? Like, because like there's no way for you to be timid when everyone else is like this, right? You kind of have to, it forces you, especially very early on, it forces you to develop like actively seek to get to know people, actively seek to build relationships with people. And I think just surrounding yourself with confident people is a really great way to do that, because most of the time they'll be happy to help you out.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
A question that I had, since you generally know like the trajectory of your university, like your university career and such, what goals would you have for the future after you graduate from Harvard and such?
That's a big question, even for me, just because, I from what I've learned the past couple of years, anything can happen, right? I mean, I would like to say, I would like to become an entrepreneur, create my own company, have it blow up and go successful, right? But I have no idea where I'll be after graduating. For me, I definitely want to get involved in the tech sector, whether it be, on Wall Street or Silicon Valley or just somewhere else, right? I want to do that. But really, I can't give you a direct answer to that just because, I have no idea. I think that's the reality behind it. And what I've learned is you don't really have to have an idea. From all of the talks that I've attended, from the mentors that I've had, they've all said the same thing, right? You don't always have to, go by a set plan for your future, just because you don't know what opportunities might be presented to you. So I think it's best to just go as you, plan as you go, and then be open-minded and be available to change your plan if other opportunities arise, or maybe something doesn't go as planned, right?
Like, just don't limit yourself. Yeah, don't be more open-minded. Don't limit yourself by setting a certain goal for you, because I feel like sometimes, at least from what I've observed from the people around me, they've like lost opportunities by setting themselves such rigid goals. It's like, enjoy yourself, right? Like, you don't know for sure if this is what you even want to do, right? So why invest all of this time, all of this energy into something you're not sure of, when you know you can just like take it with a grain of salt and just explore all the opportunities around you.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nail, right? If I were to just be set on, say, medicine, right, since junior high, I would have never gotten involved in robotics. I would never found my passion in technology, right? So I think you really hit it on the nail there.
Okay, all right. We got one question from the chat from Michael Wynn, and they asked, would you please introduce your contest plan during high school? I'm not exactly sure what that means, but contest.
Yeah.
I think it's the plan that you go through, you register for many contests that are good for your resume, like a math, Waterloo contest, all those academic contests, Olympic,
Okay.
math Olympic. Yeah, those contests, the plan for the contest, academic contest.
Oh yeah, so have you participated in any academic contests like that, Eric?
Yeah, when I was younger, so like junior high, beginning of high school, I think that's when the most amount of opportunities came to me. I think most notable one that I would say all junior high schoolers do is the Waterloo math contest, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but with that, I would actually say, unless you're, top percentage in your area, in the province or in the nation, right? Your contest plans aren't the most important thing about your application. For me, I actually didn't get involved in many contests during my high school life. I can't, like, right now I'm actually having trouble thinking about even just one, because that wasn't really a part of my life. I didn't succeed in that regard, right? But with that, right, I compensated in other involvements, right? Like we've just discussed for the past, 45 minutes, right? The extracurriculars is where I kind of excelled at, but I never excelled in contests. So I couldn't really talk too much about that,
I guess I'll speak about my own personal experience. I haven't participated in many. I participated in a few Waterloo contests, like the Gawa competition, and another one this past year. I'd say, like, for the most part, it's just like rapid practice, like with anything. You just have to, because if you study their tests long enough, you can see that there's a specific way you're supposed to think, a specific way you're supposed to interpret these questions in order to actually come to the correct outcome. And so for me, Michael, I would say, yeah, same thing. Like, don't worry too much about it, since it's probably not going to be the most important. Your extracurriculars and grades will. But like, if you want to do well in contests, then just do lots of practice, and you need to, like, you actually have to be like, for instance, if you want to do coding competitions, you have to actively, like, do it in your spare time, like be passionate about it, not just like do it for the sake of doing it. I guess it's a bit harder for math competitions, right? Because you can't really integrate computer science as you can with math. You can't really specifically, like, build applications with it. But yeah, just in general, do a whole lot of questions. And as Eric said, it's probably not the most important.
Yeah,
What
Shawn.
about you, Vicky? Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying, if I may just interrupt you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to apply to Ivy League schools, unless you're, the top, top percentile of what you're doing, like these contests, to be honest, they're not gonna care if I've taken 100 contests, but I've only scored, if 100th place, right, out of like 150 people, they're not really gonna care. And that's the truth of it, right? So I think that's why it's not as important as people may think it is.
Well, what about you, Vicky? Have you done any competitions?
Oh, I've done a few, mostly in like junior high and such. Not too many recently, but we have
Yeah,
participated in some coding competitions, though not really sure where those kind of went.
Did you do the
Yeah.
CCC?
Hmm?
The CCC.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, we have another question in chat. We'll just really
We
quickly.
have a few other questions.
Oh, how about you ask this one? Do you want to ask this one? It's the one
Okay.
it's about the average marks one.
Yes. Yeah, there are a few questions in chat, but firstly, one of the questions posed was, what was your average marks that helped you make it into Harvard and such? And what range were they?
Yeah, so for my mark range from grade 7 to what I am now is around 95 to 97. And so that's just kind of something I've maintained throughout the years. And so I think I applied with a 96 overall average.
Impressive.
Thank
Do they
you.
look at your junior high grades? Like, do they really take those into account, or?
US schools they take into account your grade 9 marks. So grade 9 to 11 is the most important. Yeah.
Grade 9 to 11. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
and so for my grade 12 marks, my second semester, which I am in now, their only requirement is that it doesn't drop substantially. So with that, I think it's as long as you're maintaining above an 85, right? That's their expectation. But yeah, they look at grade 9, but your most important mark is your grade 11 marks.
So everyone in grade 11, that's you, Vicky. Do good on your test. That's a big part of it. All right.
Yeah.
So there was also another question, like, regarding your strengths, why you were chosen, but we kind of went over that already, like your activities and stuff. So I guess we'll just skip over that for now, and we'll go back to something else. And so that something else is, I want to go I'm personally interested in your second internship. So how did you get your second internship? You talked about how, like, in your first internship you got it partly through connections. Do you think that your first internship helped you, like, just having that experience helped you get to your second one?
No, actually, my second internship is with a close family friend of mine. And so once again, I kind of asked him because he's an electrical engineer, which is a little bit different than what I wanted to go into. But I thought it would still be helpful, right? Because it's in the same, kind of ballpark. And so I actually just straight up asked him, right? So it was not correlated at all. But once again, it's just kind of putting myself out there. I asked him, and I ended up getting it, right? But if I were never to ask, he would never have offered, right? So it's once again just kind of putting yourself out there.
Wow, nice.
We actually got a few more questions while that was being asked. So one of the ones that was asked later, but I think we might have skipped over it, was how many questions do you study per? Sorry, that was wrong. How many hours do you study per day, and like, what other things are you doing besides school? But I think we kind of covered the extracurricular. So if you could expand a bit more on the first part, that would be nice, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, studying was never like a set amount of time. It was always dependent on how much work I had. In grade 11, it was easily 3 hours a day, 3 hours plus, just because I had a more vigorous course load. Right now, I study maybe an hour, sometimes even less, just because I have a very easygoing semester, right? I don't think you have to overexert yourself. Don't just burn yourself out just because you think the only way to get into these schools is studying. They value your character and the qualities of you as a person, very, very high. Of course, like I have to put it out there, you need good marks to even get your application read. But within that application, if all you have is marks, that's not really what they're looking for. They're looking for, a well-rounded person who pursues their passions, who partakes in extracurricular activities, right? And who has a life just a little bit more than just studying. So I would say study as much as you need, but don't overexert yourself. Partake in other activities as well. I think that's what I would say for that. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this year because of COVID-19, right? It's like really affected the college admissions process, particularly for international students trying to go to schools in America and American students, right? We're seeing like kind of more people or like schools like leaning away from the standardized tests. And so did you have to take any standardized tests like the SAT or ACT for your college admissions? Is that something you recommend?
I'm not sure what the following year is going to look like. I'm not sure what people applying now are going to do, but for me, all standardized testing was actually optional. And so I did take the SAT once this year, but I did not have adequate preparation for it just because all of the testing, majority of the testing centers were actually just completely closed due to COVID-19. And so my test date was a lot sooner than I had anticipated because it was the only one available. And so I didn't score as well as I wanted. And so actually on my application, I just did not include a standardized test score. So with that, I would say, I got lucky in one sense, but because there was no standardized testing necessary, the number of applicants increased dramatically. So for Harvard this year, 15,000 more applicants applied than last year, right? So it was a higher pool, definitely lower acceptance rate. So maybe the SATs were played to my advantage, but I did have to go up against a lot more people.
Yeah, I feel like standardized tests are going to be around for a while. So for people who do who are interested in going to the US for schools, they should probably take it. But like if it's not required, don't put it if it's not up to that level yet, right?
Right. Yeah. I think for me, my goal was if I got in 1,500 or above, then I would put it just because it boosted my application. But because I got something lower than that, right? I would, if I had applied with that score, it would have actually, I think, depreciated my application. So you just have to play it to how it makes your application stand out.
All right. Yeah. Don't be overloading with like irrelevant stuff that brings you down.
Yeah.
Is the idea here.
So there's a few questions that we didn't go over yet from the chat because there were a lot of people asking questions. So one of the questions that was asked earlier on was like, did you participate in any debate training or debate training or competition in high
So
school?
no, yeah, debate and speech was actually one of the things I didn't get involved with, just because I don't particularly enjoy public speaking, especially competitively. But through my childhood, I did take a couple of years of speech classes outside, so performance speech, and I think it's definitely something worthy of doing because it helps you organize your words and articulate your thoughts, right? And it's definitely benefited my life in high school, and as well as interviews. That's a big thing about applications for anything, like either it be job interviews or college interviews. I think it'll definitely benefit if you do participate in either performance speech classes or speech and debate at your school.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure like just being able to speak in public also gives you just a lot more opportunities, no matter what you go into, if it's a public speaking opportunity or if it's like maybe taking on a presentation for a robotics club or something. I don't know if you've done it before, but like, yeah, you're obviously very well articulated, so I wouldn't be surprised if you've done that. All right, let's move on to another question. So this one is, what do you think is the best time to prepare to go to top universities? So I'm assuming it's like, when should you really start preparing, start grinding for that, for college admissions?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I'll speak for myself personally. I started preparing about 4 or 5 months before I actually submitted my application. And for me, what it looked like was I would say, first month or first 2 months was very, very light. Get my plans down, take which schools, I created a spreadsheet and I listed all of the schools that I wanted to go to. And then I ranked them in which application I'll work first and then all the way down. And then with that, I looked through the supplementary topics that they wanted to hear from, and I started brainstorming for my major Common App application, right? Oh, so I guess it'll be good to talk about what the American application system looks like, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, all of the American schools go under one application called the Common App. And what that basically is, every school is involved with that, and you write one big essay that's around 650 words that is sent to every university you apply to. And so with that, each individual school has their own topics, which are called supplementary topics, that you also have to write upon. So each school has different ones. And so that's why I'm saying each school, you might have to write 3 to 4 different essays, right? And then, so with that, I think the final 2-3 months is when I really started finalizing what I wanted to write and putting those thoughts into words. So I would say definitely give yourself as much time as you want, as you can. And for me, at least I would say 3 to 5 months before you actually hit that submit button.
Yeah, you really want to make your essays stand out, make them good, right? So
Right.
what I got from it is that every school in the US has one essay you have to do, right? And then on top of that, depending on your school, you also have to send in another like tailored application that school requests, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
And so like normally what things did they discuss? What did you discuss, or like what kind of questions did they ask? What kind of prompts do they ask you in those essays?
Right. So the major Common App one, the biggest one, has 8 topics that you choose from. And so it goes from like, what are your passions and how you got involved to like, what roadblocks have you experienced in your life and how did you overcome them? Another one could be, I mean, like, how did you give back to your community and what does it mean to you, right? So it covers a wide variety of topics. And I don't think you should be worried because there's definitely going to be one that you can definitely write a very, heartfelt, passionate essay on. So I can't really, every school has different ones, but they're all along the lines of what you would expect, right? How did you give back to your community? What does your life look like outside of school, right? And how are you going to contribute to our university if we accept you? Things like that. They're very generic.
So just to like catch up on more of the questions from chat, someone asked the question, which high school did you attend, and do you think it factored into your acceptance into Harvard at all?
Yeah, so as we mentioned at the start, I attend Rundle College, and so these past couple of years, Rundle has placed, the top 3 within Alberta for high schools, and so I would say that definitely might have played a factor, but I'm not entirely sure because I think I am the first Harvard acceptance at my school, so that really plays a part into whether it helped me or not. So I'm not too sure. But yeah, I'm not too sure. But I'm looking in the chat. I see that they're also asking if I took AP or IB, so I might just touch upon that.
Yeah.
So yeah, my school actually offers neither. We're a smaller private school, and I don't think they would have had enough teachers and people to teach IB. But we do have an honors program, which is it's not accelerated, but it's it's kind of like AP and IB. And I wouldn't be overly worried, if you're like me and you don't have access to AP or IB courses, because what these universities look at is how vigorous your course load is compared to what your school has to offer, right?
Yeah.
They don't care, they don't really care if you took full IB or AP. They just want to know, in comparison to what your school has to offer, how hard and how vigorous is your course load and how did you challenge yourself? So I think that's a key takeaway.
Yeah, because I'm kind of in the same situation as you. Like, my school offers AP courses, right? But it doesn't offer any IB, right? And I feel like ultimately it doesn't matter what you take, as long as, like, as you said, right? You show that you stand out from, like, even the people who do take these, right? It really does depend on your course. Because, like, I had friends who, like, took, like, like all AP, all honors, like all AP classes, right? And I had friends who, like, took some honor classes, right? And there were some instances in which, like, just because of how passionate those people who only took honors classes were, they got accepted into, like, better schools than the other people, right? But I can only say that on account of, like, what I've seen, right? That may be different, but yeah, ultimately it's like, those don't really have that much to do with it.
Yeah.
We have another. Oh, it is you. It is the people who make the difference. The difference makers get chosen. You're a difference maker. Feel proud. Okay. Also, are there any other questions we can find in the chat? So, okay, most of these questions we already kind of addressed before. But yeah, okay, so your robotics team also participated in some national level competitions, right?
Provincial, yes.
Yes.
Is national, yeah. So it's I'll talk a little bit about that because it gets a little confusing. So what we get involved with are called, we're a part of the first robotics competition. That's FRC, and it's I believe it's a Canadian-based competition for robotics, but teams from all over the world get involved. And so we get involved in competitions that are called regional competitions, which is confusing because it, in a sense, is international. So we flew to Victoria, BC, and we competed with people in China, in Australia, in various parts of the States, as well as Canada, right? But we were competing for a regional title. And then if you were to win or place top 2 in that regional competition, then you would be sent to nationals, which is actually international. Teams from all over the world, the best of the world, compete there. So because we were a younger team, we actually never got to go to nationals, but we were very close one year. We made it to semifinals. And so if we were to have won that semifinal match, we would have actually made it to qualified for nationals. But yeah, with that, that's kind of how the system works. FRC, First Robotics Competition, has a whole website that you can explore. And I think if your school is involved with it, definitely it's worth joining.
Okay, yeah. So you've been in robotics for a long time, right? So when you were just getting in, was it like open to everyone, or was it like kind of competitive and like not everyone was able to get into that like club?
Yeah, for me, it was very open. It was open to everyone for the first year, just because it was our third year as a club and not a whole lot of people were interested. But for instance, last year, because of our, our placing and how well we did, we had a ton more applicants. So we did actually have an application process. But for me, I think my advice is if you don't have access to a club like that at your school, Calgary has two really great clubs outside of school that you can get a part of. One is called ATA. It's called ATA, and they're a robotics club outside of school that's not associated with any school. And so I actually wanted to get be a part of that, but it conflicted with my school robotics club. And so I had to pick essentially. But I think that is a great way to get involved if your school doesn't offer it.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I think like for people who are interested in STEM but like not necessarily robotics, I think it's really important to like have, as I said before, I keep saying it again, but continue like make your own like research areas you're interested in and create your own projects which are actually like represent your knowledge in that field. And I think that's also like a really good way for you to just get experience in like coding and stuff, and then eventually work your way into like these other fields, for instance, robotics.
Hmm.
We have another question from the chat. Do you want to answer this one, Vicky?
Yeah, sure. So one of the most recent question that was asked was, what was your admission interview like? I'm assuming for
Right.
university.
Yes, absolutely. So actually, the thing about that is not everyone gets an interview. So that depends on the availability of alumni and people who volunteer for the specific university in your area. And so what that means is if there's no one who attended that school and graduated from that school in your area, you might not be able to get an interview. Or if, your application wasn't what they were looking for, they might not offer you an interview. But so for me, I got 3 interviews in total, one from Stanford, one from Harvard, and one from Princeton. And so all of them were actually very, very different. To start off with my Princeton one, she was a professor at the U of C, and she was very, very easygoing. She was lounging, she was like sipping her coffee, and she was just kind of, leaning on her hand. She was very easygoing, and it felt like a one-on-one conversation, right? It felt like I was talking to an old friend, if that makes sense. And yeah, with that, she asked me the standard questions. What are you like? What are you like as a person? What do you do outside of school? Why do you think Princeton would be a good fit for you, and why should Princeton accept you, right? Things like that. They're very generic, but they're looking for some very in-depth explanations and answers. Whereas my Harvard interview, I think a main contributing factor to that is my Harvard interview. I think my Harvard interview went exceptional. It was very smooth. I gave a lot of very, I would say, well thought out answers because it was my last interview. And the person that was interviewing me, gave me great feedback, and he was very easy to talk to. And with him, it was a little bit more professional, but again, it had that feeling of I was talking to an old friend, right? So it's that mutual respect that we had. And then so with that, he asked me the same questions, and then, it was a very great interaction. Whereas my Stanford interview, my interviewer was actually, I would say, more nervous than I was because it was his first time. Yeah, and so with that, it made things a lot more difficult for me because it throws out my rhythm, right? And halfway through, his son came and interrupted us and things like that with COVID and everything, right? So I think it really depends on each interview process, each interviewer too. You have to really read the vibes they're giving off, right? What the mood is like, and you have to play to your advantage. So with my Stanford one, he was very formal, very serious. So I had to, kind of change my tone and become very formal and embody what he wanted to hear from me.
Right.
Whereas my Princeton one, if I were to be super formal and she was super laid back, then that would just be a mismatch, right? So I had to kind of ease off, relax, and do that. So I think yeah, that gives a good explanation of what my interviewer process is. But I think, like the chat said, the interviewer process play a very important role. You do have to nail those ones. So I would even consider practicing beforehand, talking to somebody else and searching up online what the interview questions are like.
Yeah, and before you have to get those interviews, you have to get your resume looked at, right? And then processed, and then they actually have to choose you, select you for the interview, right? So it's like a very meticulous process you have to go through.
I think for the interview though, I think a good part to mention is the interview process. The interviewers don't care about your academics. So yeah, none of my interviewers read my application. They don't know anything about me when I go into that interview. What they are looking for is your personality and what you're like as a person, the qualities that you hold, right? So to see if you are a good fit for their school. So I think that's why it's very important to know that, these universities don't just care about grades. Of course, it plays a huge factor, but you need to be developed as a person, and you need to be able to hold conversations, right? Have this interpersonal skill. So I think that's a key thing to mention.
Definitely. So like, did you do like any rigorous preparation for your interviews, or like how did you approach it?
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't do very vigorous preparation. I searched online what the questions are like, and I searched, what kind of responses they're looking for. But other than that, I think you have to word yourself in such a way that you stand out from the applicants that they're interviewing. They're interviewing hundreds of applicants, right? But whether you have to dress nicely, make yourself stand out in one way or another, whether it's, you give your answers and you word them in a different way or something, right? You have to make yourself stand out one way or another, as long as you're not making, a fool of yourself, right? But I think if you're wear something that's bright or something that's very noticeable, or, give your answers in such a way that they haven't heard it before. I think you need to think about, how to word your answers.
How to word your answers, like how to communicate them to make you seem fit, or like seem well-rounded for like what they look for in an applicant, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's like that tone you come out with, right? If I'm super monotone, if I just talk and talk without, having any inflection or whatnot, it's very boring to listen to. And once they interview hundreds of people, I'll be forgotten, right? But if I'm very lively and I'm communicating them and I'm matching their energy, then they might take a liking to you. And then afterwards, they'll think about you and they'll write up your report, right?
Yeah, I guess like to sum it up, the college admissions process is like, it tests all facets of your being. Essentially, it tests your grades, it tests your your skills in the community, right? And obviously it tests you on your personality, on your ability to like communicate with these interviewers, right? And so we got one more question from the chat. It said, regarding your stats and schools you applied to, but we already kind of discussed that, so we'll just gloss over that.
I could talk about like what schools I applied to, because I don't think we mentioned that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, Tracy. Well, I applied to, I believe it's 7. So my top choice schools were Stanford, which was my goal, which I didn't get in. But yeah, so it was Stanford, Princeton, Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, and Northwestern University, as well as Berkeley and UCLA. So yeah, that's the 7 that I applied to in the States. And I think why I applied to them was definitely just because of their program for computer science and engineering, right? They're best of the best. They offer some great opportunities and success after graduation. I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
All right. Okay. Yeah, because like, yeah, it's definitely really important to not just apply to schools because of their names, but to apply because of because of their particular programs. Like it's I think that's the kind of way it is in North America, right? You might have one school which is really good, right? But like it may be lacking in the program you're interested in. So that's interesting compared to like how it is in other countries. Okay, and it says over here, one question from someone else. Do you want to answer this one, Vicky?
Oh, yes. One of the questions asked was, will you study online or will you actually go over to Harvard and study in person there with COVID and everything?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. So as of right now, Harvard is saying that it is a full return onto campus, although I don't know if classes are going to be in person. And what the US schools are saying right now is that you have to be fully vaccinated to be on campus. And so with that, I don't know. They're finalizing plans in the summer. So that's about as much as I can tell you right now.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay, so I guess another question I have is,
can I ask something on top of that? The reason why I ask Eric is because if even though he got a vaccine, I want to remind him to get insurance, because U.S. medical care system is really not as good as Canada. So make sure all the insurance are done like before you go there to study.
All of these schools offer their own healthcare, so you get healthcare with the school. So that's not something students have to worry about at all. Mm-hmm.
Good to know.
yeah, I don't think it should be, right? Like have know that it's good that, so is this something that like all schools do? Do all schools like take care of your healthcare, or is it like just these people?
I would assume so, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It comes with a fee, but with that, the school provides all the necessary things that you need for healthcare. Yeah.
We got another question in chat. Do you have a blog where you share your experiences and such?
I do not have a blog, unfortunately, but I mean, if I have time, I might start one. Who knows? But I know there are a lot of people on YouTube and that already have a blog that you can totally visit. Mm-hmm.
All right, I guess. Oh, it's already 8:20. Time flies by when you're having fun. All right. Well, I guess we'll ask one more question. And Vicky, do you want to answer the final question?
Wait, hold on 1 second.
We got a question regarding essays. What is your best advice for writing essays? We kind of talked over this right before. They give you a wide range, so you just have to choose the one you're most comfortable with, right? I feel like in the case with essays, because it's so personal, you can't really like just, there's no formula for writing a good essay. It truly does have to come down from the heart in the end, right?
Yeah, Shawn, if I may add, I'll just talk about my personal experience with that, right? But basically, so when you're applying for these universities, when you hear the word essay, right? Studying in Canada, Canadian essays have a very structured approach to it. You have the beginning, middle, and end, right? But with American universities, it's a lot more like storytelling, I would say. It's an essay, but you're essentially writing a story about your life and how that topic applies to that life experience. And so don't write the essay thinking that it needs to be completely structured. Write it more as a informatory story, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I heard that. Like, I was watching a video online the other day about it. Like, I just didn't notice like the differences were that crucial, but it's cool to know. It's cool to know. We also got another question, and this is a very big one, and that is, where did you find and hire the application advisor? Because I think we touched about that earlier on in the admissions process.
Right. Yeah, so my advisor is called Zara, the Rasul Learning Group. So I'll send that to the chat. But there's actually tons that you can find. And I just found that this lady, her name is Zara Rasul, she's very busy. I managed to contact her early and just get a spot with her. But she is super helpful. She knows the system inside and out. So I think it's really great.
Nice. yeah, it's just really important to understand understand the admissions process. That's how you get the best chance of getting in. Well, okay. Even though we're over time, we'll save just one final question because we didn't really talk about scholarships yet, and I think this is a really great question from the chat. So, have you applied for any scholarships? And if so, what are some requirements for that? Well, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the unique thing about these Ivy League schools is that they are completely completely affordable. And what they mean by that is they have a financial aid system unlike any other. And so, for example, I'll speak on to Harvard. Harvard's big thing is that it's 100% affordable. 20% of applicants actually don't pay a single thing to attend there, just because they have a large bursary fund. And so what you do is you apply for their financial aid, and it's completely need-based. So how they'll take a look at how much you can actually pay, and they will only allow you to pay the amount that you like. They'll give you the amount of money that you need to attend their school. So as long as you get in, I don't think financially it's a worry, just because of the financial aid system that they have.
Yeah, yeah. You can't really say the same for like other schools, for instance. Maybe like.
No, I think it's mostly just the Ivy Leagues, because they are private, right? And they do have such a large bursary fund, right? So
Yeah.
I know, for example, like public schools like Berkeley and whatnot, they don't offer the same resources.
All right. Well, I think that's basically all of the questions we have today. We went over some really interesting topics, everything from college admissions all the way to extracurriculars, all the way to just being involved in the community and building up leadership skills. Okay, and I think that will be all for me and Vicky with our questions. And so we just want to thank you for taking the time today to join us and letting your insights and just your general experiences to all of us. And I can say personally, it was really incredibly valued, the info you gave us today. So thank you.
No, thank you, Shawn and Vicky, for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I just want to add, I added my email to the chat just because I'm happy to help anyone who has any additional questions that might not have been answered in this hour and a little bit. So just feel free to email me. I just put it in the chat. So yeah, feel free to email me with any questions.
Awesome. Wow, so generous. Yeah, thanks.
Well,
right.
thank you so much, everyone. I would like just to say thank you to Eric. I smell from the beginning until now and see how mature you grow, and your answers actually demonstrate your maturity in many ways, and your leadership skills, and your research about everything you need to prepare. You fully prepared for what you want, and you prepared to see anything could happen. Keep open-minded, and that's amazing. You are just an amazing young man. And I'm so excited tonight, Shawn, Vicky, Eric. This is the talk that student-led. You guys lead this entire show, and I actually don't know what question you're going to ask, Eric, but I know from bottom of my heart you will have lots of questions to ask, and at the same time our parents and other students as well. And this is very successful. This is education. Education is not just marks, complete teachers assignment. That is the one part. That's just the ticket to knock the door of the university. But when they interview you, I believe, Eric, they want to see the real person, right? They not only they want to see, marks. It's just to select who they want to interview. So I believe tonight, either way you answer questions, respond to all, the question from the chat area, and I see your maturity, and I see your wisdom, and I see for long term you build up the confidence, and being the student union president, you're leading the entire school students. You're the liaison between the students and teachers. You like acting actually like an adult, so you are, ready to go any of the new field and university. And congratulations one more time, and thank you, Vicky and Shawn. You provide this beautiful opportunity with Eric all together, interact so nicely, so successfully. I'm so impressive. Thank you so much.
You got this in the bag. College is going to be great for you. You got this.
Thank you so much for all the kind words. That's heartfelt. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, but really though, like it's really impressive, and we're really thankful to have you here, especially for our first C&C talk. It's great to have you on, and hopefully, and maybe in the future when you become even more successful, we can have you back here again.
Absolutely, I'd love to be back. Totally.
That's a good one. Welcome back, Eric. Yeah, you're gonna to lead the younger, students. And always remember,
next time Eric will be here to hire
up.
someone from the C&C. He will be the entrepreneur, hire C&C students.
You know what? He is already hired. I'm too late. He will be hired to lead our join our coding department for robotics competition, but his summer is fully booked. We're going to have him for May and June, and see what other time we have before he leaves. But we will always get a hold of you, and more contribution to your own community, Calgary. All right. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shawn. Thank you, Vicky. So hopefully Shawn and Vicky will lead the C&C talks in the future, and depends your availability. I know you guys are grade 10 and 11, as what Eric said, way to go. So yeah.
But this is totally worth it. To have the opportunity to get to like reach out to people like Eric is makes it all worth the time. It's my pleasure.
Oh, thank you. No, the pleasure's all mine.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you, Eric.